Okay, okay. Okay. So, namaskar and good afternoon, everybody present in this digital platform. I am Dr. Kalyani Sarangi is here to teach you ethics. Prior to that, I want to share that I am assigned for 2 hours today to discuss the block 1 of ethics paper, which comprises of nature and scope of ethics, importance and challenges of ethics, ethics in history of Indian philosophy, and ethics in the history of Western philosophy. So I will teach you around 1 hour and 50 minutes. Last 10 or 15 minutes we'll have our question answer session. Okay. So prior to enter into the uh, block 1 of introduction chapter, I want to share with you the very basic thing related to our ethics. So to begin with, I can say that the word ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos or ethika, you can say, which means customs or habits, or you can say it is also named as character. Even the word moral also, because many times we used ethics and moral philosophy synonymously. So we can say that the word moral is also derived from the Latin word mores, which means again customs or habits. Therefore, we take here, particularly, I will take both ethics and morality as overlapping synonymously, or they are overlapping each other. Usually, you see, when we talk of ethics or morality, in terms of moral laws. Okay, so what is a law? You can say law is an you can say law is a mode of law helps us to act, to operate, to function in a particular way. So, but here in ethics we talk of moral laws. So, what is the basic difference between, or what is that uniqueness of moral law? You can say the moral law is prescriptive in nature, which opposed to natural laws, and natural laws are descriptive in nature. Okay, so you can say that in the natural law, like you can talk about physical laws, you can talk about social laws, you can talk about health laws. For example, we can take the example of law of gravitational pull, and I know that if I throw something, then definitely it is going to touch the ground, because this is a you know that if we give a particular stimulus, there will be a particular response that operates in the physical world, or that operates in the physical laws. Similarly, when we talk about psychological laws, you know, if I will make one angry, make one in a, if I behave with another in a particular way, then definitely he is going to, or she is going to angry. So there are also, you can say, psychological laws or social laws. But the uniqueness with the moral law is that it is prescriptive in nature, whereas the all the natural laws, they are descriptive in nature. So what do we mean by prescription? When we talk about it is prescriptive in nature, so what do we mean by that prescriptive or that prescription? Suppose you visit to a physician, you know, he writes what to take, what not to take through a prescription. He give you a prescription. That what does it mean? It means he administers some medicines for you, and whenever he himself, the doctor himself, will be affected by that particular disease, he will also administer the same medications, the same medicines for himself. So prescriptive means what I approve for others, that I equally approve of myself in that situation. So that is called prescriptive. So when we talk about prescriptive, you know, all the moral laws, when we apply it to the moral domain, we know that the moral laws, when I talk about the moral laws, they are equally applicable for me as well as for others, because this is the very basic nature of moral laws, you know. And in terms of moral laws also, we do talk of moral facts, And in the moral, even in the other domain, we like descriptive laws, we also talk of the descriptive facts, or in general we understand fact, but there is a difference. What is the difference? Fact must have some objectivity, because when you see there is a fire, and when I put my finger into the fire, I know it definitely it will get burned, that I know. So that is, even in instead of being me there, anyone else who will be there, they will have the same sensation. So this is, there is objectivity. But when we talk about moral laws, there is, we do not find out that sort of objectivity in all the moral laws. Because suppose you see there is a moral principle that speak the truth. Okay. So satyam vada dharmam chara na asatya vada na dharma chara. Suppose there is a principle like this. So you see, if there is nothing wrong in following the principle, we do follow the principle. But if the situation demands, we deviate from the principle. Here I want to say, I want to cite one instance from our Indian tradition. You must be knowing about that, Rishi Kaushika. Rishi Kaushika was doing meditation, and some common people, or you can say some merchant people, they approached him and they requested him not to speak, because dacoits are following these merchant people, and they just requested him not to speak the truth, rather to divert them so that their lives can be saved. But here, Rishi Kaushika, for a moment, he thought, so far I have not spoken any lie. So far, I have only opted for truth. So the dacoits approached him, and the dacoits asked him, where these people, have you seen them? So immediately Rishi Kaushika said that, yes, they are hiding behind me in the bush. So you see, these dacoits, they just bring these merchant to before the Rishi Kaushika and kill them and looted them. So you see here, if we analyze, this is a single instance. If we analyze this instance, your gut feeling, your conscience always tells you that no. Here, Rishi, it is more wiser, more advisable for Rishi Kaushika not to speak the truth. Rather, telling the lie is more demanding in the situation than the speaking the truth. So, taking into account this situation, you can say that the moral law can never be absolute. It is for to talk of the moral laws as absolute, it is only an abstract, nothing doing in our real life situations, practical situations. But when we talk about the moral law, we must keep in mind that that must be applicable to particular and concrete cases. Otherwise, the moral law will lose its own meaning. The moral law will lose its own essence. Why the moral law is there? Because they are or in the society, we being the members of the community, we follow these rules so that we can have a peaceful living here in the community. We can lead a good life, we can live a peaceful life, we can lead a harmonious life in the community. So that's why you can say, suppose there is a general law, that moral law, general moral law is that do good and avoid evil. But when we apply it to concrete and cases, and when we particularize this moral law, we say that do good to others, help the poor, speak the truth. This is how we can apply these abstract, the so-called abstract laws to practical situations, so that we can say that moral laws, they help us to find the path of righteousness or find the path of morality. But you see, when we talk of moral laws, we must always keep in mind that we never talk of morality in the animal domain. We never say, suppose a dog will bite you, you never say that this is bad of you, this is a bad behavior that you have exhibited to me. No, we never say so. Why? Because we only talk of moral laws only in the domain of human beings. Why? because the human beings, they possesses rationality, they have the freedom to exercise their free will, they have calculated or explored all the alternatives that is open to them, and thereby they just consider the pros and cons of each of the alternative that is open to them, and thereby they take the decision which is good for them or which is good for the community, which is conducive for their moral consciousness, for their moral development, and which is not bad for the community. Because we always, being rational animals, we always keep in mind that my growth will be there along with others' growth will be there. I cannot grow I cannot grow at the cost of others. Similarly, you see, suppose in the dead of the night I want to dance, I cannot dance because there are senior citizens are staying nearby. They will get disturbed. Their sleep may get disturbed. So I cannot. I have to moral here. I have to, at the same time, I have to think of the community. Because why? Because I am a member of the community. Man is not have his has man. Man is not have his living in isolation, rather in the community with others, in the family, he has a good life. So you can earn as well as a good living. So if we take that moral law as it is only the cup of tea of human beings, it is only the cup of tea of human persons. So realizing that he or she is human, how can this moral value determine specific moral values? That is a big question before us. How we as humans agree to disagree in moral domain? Because you see, when I say something is good for me, I cannot say that because it is good for me, it has to be good for all of us. No, it is not like that. Because suppose there is a bowl of sweets before me, you can say that I can say that no, this is bad for me because this will, my sugar will, if I consume this, my sugar will be enhanced, or it will increase my sugar level. So this is, I cannot take it because I am a diabetic patient. So but you see, a person for who loves sweet, that is very much, that is very palatable for him, that is very much good for him. So you cannot have a watertight compartment that this is good means this is good for all, this is good for all the time to come, if this is bad means this is bad for all. So this is how we cannot make a watertight compartment between good and bad. Like this moral terms, these are called as moral terms, this we cannot say so. So if the, you can say that the we have to decide a course of action, we have to decide a particular behavior of a particular person, we have to decide a particular character of a person, we have to say a particular person as good or bad, taking into account many things. You cannot suppose, you see, you cannot take a behavior of a particular person into account and you cannot say that he or she is a very bad person. No, for that you have to take into account the 30 or 40 years of his behavior into account. So because you have to, when you pass a moral comment that she is a bad person, he is a good person, by that you are just evaluating the person, you have certain standards, you compare a lot of his behavior with that particular course of action, then only you pass a moral comment upon that. So when we appreciate a course of action, we say that it is a good action. When we condemn, we blame a course of action, we say that it is a bad action. So with different standards that is set by the society, by the, you can, by the jury members of the society, and by the, you can say by the there is a common agreement, that taking into account that agreement, we have different standards and we compare a course of action with that particular standard, and then we say that whether a particular action is good or bad, a particular person is good or bad. Okay, so when we particularly say that, how we say that it is good or bad, a line of thought in ethics that advocates that moral laws We talk of moral laws, we talk of moral values, we talk of moral terms. So these moral laws or rules, you can say, they enforce the moral values, and that is natural to human being. Because why? Because we have conscience. There are different philosophers, different ethical thinkers, they put it in a different ways. That element of intuition, this is that because you see, Occam, a British philosopher, he says that because we have conscience, so that's why we appreciate the moral laws. Some other philosophers like Stoics, they says that it is logos. That intuition is differently named by different ethical thinkers. Somebody like Sappersberg, he says that it is a moral sense. If we look into the philosophy ethics of Kant, he says that it is the categorical imperative, or you can say that according to Aquinas, it is called the right reason. So this is how it can be interpreted differently. Different words are assigned to this intuition, and that intuition in the common way, if we understand what is that intuition is immediate, direct, immediate apprehension. That is called intuition. Or in very common language, you can say that gut feeling. We always say that my gut feeling can never go wrong. That is nothing the voice of intuition, that is nothing the voice of your conscience, because we always make a difference between a mind and conscience. Mind is always distract you from the righteous path, from the right path, because the tendency, the very nature of mind such. But when you try to listen to the voice of conscience, it will never mislead you. That we always know. We make a difference between mana and viveka. That is very much there. Okay. So when we particularly talk about this intuition, and this intuition is differently interpreted by these different ethical thinkers. But when we talk about this intuition, it is strongly emphasized by the meta-ethicist. You see, when so far what I have told, this is all about the traditional ethics. There is a development. There are, you can say, the ethics has three classifications. You can talk about traditional ethics and meta-ethics and applied ethics. Okay. So in block 2, you have applied ethics, that is bioethics. So when we talk about the traditional ethics, in traditional ethics, we are taking and making uses of certain ethical terms like good, right, ought, should not. So these words, the meta-ethical thinkers, they try to analyze these ethical terms. What do we mean by good? Good, if we talk about good, what are the characteristics of good so that we can say thing to be good? So good can have only moral sense or non-moral sense. Like you can say, we say that the person is good, and we say that if a pen writes well, we say the pen is good. Are the good that is used in two different judgments are the same or are they different? So these questions will be addressed by the meta-ethical thinkers. Okay. So similarly, here the word intuition, it is also strongly emphasized by the meta-ethicist who maintain that moral language is objective. Moral language is objective, but they differ taking into account as to what that object of this moral intuition is. So some of them, they view that this object is rightness of specific acts. For others, it is a kind of moral property, you can say, the property which can never be defined by non-moral terms, because thereby we commit another fallacy. That is, it is so the moral properties like good, right. So Moore is a philosopher who said that it cannot be defined. It is indefinable property. So similarly, there are also others who says that it is a general principle of utility, or you can say that it is a set of principles, prima facie duty of Ross. And you can say prima facie duty means you can say the first hand impression. That is, for example, you can say that gratitude, it is a prima facie duty. And you talk about justice, you talk about honesty. This we are talk of the intuition will guide in that way. The first hand impression is that we always look for justice. We always look for honesty. We never be misguided. So this is how the intuition is, particularly the meta-thesis, they interpreted the intuition as something objectivity, and that objectivity, regarding that objectivity, there are differences of opinion among the ethical thinkers that we see. Okay, so when we, so basically we know that from our discussions we know that each and every human person, or you can say that every human being, he has a moral consciousness. It is a, so you see, when we talk about human being, we very well know that human being is not a body only. Even you cannot say that it is human being has a mind only. So better way to define human being as a body, mind and spirit complex. He has a physical need. uh, if we feel hungry, we can take some food. So that is the physical need. So similarly, you see, so I have some mental requirements, mental cravings. Because you see, you have some mental cravings. That's why you are joined in this platform to know more and more. That is your mental craving. Still, you see, find out some people, those who have enough, they have a good body, they have enough, still they are dissatisfied because spiritual demands are not yet fulfilled. They are called as amidst poverty amidst plenty, you can say. They have everything, all sorts of comforts, all sorts of luxury. But still, if you ask them, they say, no, no, something I am lacking, I don't know to define what is exactly what is that I'm lacking, but still I'm feeling some sort of inadequacy in me. So that is called the spiritual hunger, that is called the spiritual craving, that is called the spiritual need, for which we define man not only as a physical entity, even not only as a psychological entity, rather it is a complex combination of both body, mind and spirit. Okay, so we from this we know that man has uh, a moral aspect, moral consciousness. Man has the moral cognition, because you see, when suppose you see we are going in a community, suppose somebody behave irrationally with others or somebody behave rudely with others, immediately we say that no, 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 it is not good. You are not expected to behave in that way. You are supposed to behave, you are supposed to be very courteous with others. So how come this? Because we possesses, because we have a moral cognitions, because moral consciousness, you can say, it is a part of our existence, it is a part of the human consciousness, you can say. So when you can say that that moral consciousness, it is the process of becoming, it is making us from a boy or a girl, a very selfish one, to become an altruistic one. So that because of that moral, you just see the behavior of a child, a small babe. Initially, if you'll ask the child, uh, uh, whose house is it is, immediate answer will be, this is my house and my parents are staying here with me. But after, and if you will see, he is going with his parents, if you will ask him, whose car is this, this is my car and my father is the driver. You see, only I-ness is there, because a small babe, only I. And gradually he identifies himself with the family members. They are my parents. So from I, there is a transition to ours. There is a I to we, gradual transition. Again he transcends the family, and again he identifies himself with the community. So that you can say, that thing, that from I to we, from me to ours, that transition is possible because we are gradually evolving to be a better person. We are gradually evolving to be a better human being. We are gradually evolving to be, because we are in the process of becoming. There is nothing is just the end. We still can be better. We still can be better. Our performance still can be better. So that indicates that we all are in the process of becoming. The more human persons, the more we try to become human beings, the more you will become conscious of what you are or what you should do and what you should not do. So, the more you realize yourself, the more there is self realization, then you can be a better human being. That is what I want to submit. So, it is not possible, you can say, this better human being, this identification with the community, with the other part of the world, you can say it is not possible in isolation. Rather, this is possible only when one becomes moral, only when he or she is interrelated with others as an individual as well as a member of the community. You see, suppose in my neighbor there is a foreigner, right? And far away in United Kingdom, or you talk about United States of America, I can very well identify with him himself rather than with my neighbor. Because you see, many times it is a fact that we cannot deny, nobody can deny. I am not happy with what I have or what I have not. I am very much worried because what my neighbors have. They have a car, but I have not a car, so I am disturbed. My son got first class. I am not happy, but my neighbor's son got more marks than my son. That puts me in trouble. That makes me disturbed. So that all these facts that we cannot deny, these facts helps us to be within, to realize that we are not a part of, we are not, I am not, I am. I am the, rather this sounds very contradictory here, but here I want to say that I am means not a self, not a selfish person, not a selfish egoistic individual. I means my I-ness, I can have that I-ness only when I identify with others. Only when I'm not, only when I have the apathy, attitude of apathy. Apathy means I can identify easily with others. So you can say that only when that is possible, only through interconnectedness and only through interrelatedness, I can relate myself with the problem of others. I can connect myself with others. I can always realize that I am a member of this community, of this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I am simply a member of this community. So then only we can say then only we can claim that yes, there is the development of the moral consciousness, and that moral consciousness can never make you confined to I or me or mine. It will always propel you, it will always prompt you to think of others. The so-called others will not be others, rather they are the extension of yourself. They are the extension. They are the they are, you can say, they are the members of your own family. This is how we can talk about the development of the moral consciousness. So definitely we can say that there will be with the progressive development of the human consciousness and moral consciousness, one can easily understand the development of morals from the caveman to the modern man. Okay, modern human persons, from slavery to the universal declaration of the human rights, and from the jungle rule to an ideal state. We do talk of, because initially if we'll go to the iron age, so we will say that, or to the we will see that the man is only concerned about himself, because I can be in the cave so that the wild animals will not kill me. That is from the caveman. Now we are in the stage of the modern human persons. from the ancient slavery, there was a slavery system, So from the ancient slavery, now we are talking of when even we see any picture where that slavery system is in practice, we just think of how these people could behave with another people in that manner. So they have chained and they have put that person in all difficult situations. How this was possible? Even we could not visualize, could not conceive of that, because nowadays from that slavery, now we are in the level of the universal declaration of the human rights. And there was a jungle rule, jungle rule to one. We are talking of ideal state where there is social justice, there is distributive justice, everybody should get their own due. We are talking in that way only. So when we talk about that interrelation, we know that interrelation, you can say that interrelation is the immediate, it is the immediate ontological foundation. You can say this is the immediate ontological foundation of the just a minute, ontological foundation of the moral order, you can say. So this entire world of morality, this entire building of morality, you can say it is founded upon the concept, the very concept of interrelatedness and interconnectedness. Okay, so you can say, in other words, you can say that this human interrelatedness, it acts as the immediate ontological foundation of the moral order, and to act accordingly can be best expressed in terms of love, compassion, and so many other concepts. Okay. So let us try to know what is called love, because when we talk about love in the moral domain, I'll definitely like to quote Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji used to define love in this sense that love never claims but ever gives. So it always believe in giving things, never expecting anything from others. So that love, you can say, love is the existential basis of the moral order. Suppose you see, when we talk about interrelatedness, interconnectedness, that only expressed in the I am caring for others, I am loving others. So if that will not be there, then it has to talk about the moral order will simply be meaningless. So when we talk about that moral order, we have to know that the very concept of love, you can say, it is the existential basis of all the moral order that we do talk of. So even given that moral consciousness, different people, they live different moral lives depending upon different situations. Because you see, we live in a very divergent world with different cultures. There is cultural pluralism that we cannot deny, because different people, they belong to different cultural background, different practices and prohibitions. So, but being human, we can say that we tend to become better human with better understanding of our moral cognitions and allowing us to realize ourselves and others as well as persons. So, though there is divergent cultural values, though we all belong to different cultural practices, cultural patterns, but still we can say that there is some crisscrossing and overlapping of characteristics that makes us human and that connected us, that gives us that internal relation among each other, for which we say that we live in a global village, we live in the, and we talk in terms of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So you can say that that is possible, or you can say the perfection of the person, of the human person, is possible by actualizing that interconnectedness, or you can say that that better understanding, we belong all to a large family, global family. That understanding, only when that understanding will be there, you cannot hate but love others. That is the presuppositions. With this background only, I can go to the uh, um, third unit. I'll come back to the second unit later. I'll go to the third unit where you see we say that um, which is all about Indian ethics, and the fourth unit is all about the you can know it is all about the Western ethical patterns. Okay, so usually when we talk about ethics, there are two approaches for the philosophical understanding of the ethics. There is an Indian approach and there is an Western approach, right? So, taking into account these approaches, we have two types of ethics. Broadly, we say one is the Indian ethics and the second one is the Western ethics, right? So, so we start with the basic question, that is, what do we mean by Indian ethics? Okay, so I can say that the moral consciousness, the moral sensitivity, that is something which is essential for the peaceful society, for the good life in the society, not only in the personal level, but also in the professional level, in the work sphere, in the family sphere. That is all about ethics. And particularly to talk about Indian ethics, it is, Indian ethics is always associated with duty, or you can say that it is associated with it talks about some empirical things like God, you can say, or it is associated many times. We see almost all the tradition, entire tradition, you can say, it is associated with either the Vedas or with the other religions of Indian origin. Suppose you see there is a Bhagavad Gita, I want to quote here from Bhagavad Gita. There is a saying that Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami Ive. So here you see the word dharma is used here, and by that dharma, we should not understand that it is religion, because dharma is much more bigger and higher than religion. So here you can say that dharma means righteousness. Dharma means the social order. Dharma means the moral order, that you can say. When there is the decadence of the dharmas, and when there is the adharma, is when there is uh, unrighteousness, you can say, that rules over the righteousness, when there is violence over peace. So it is said that Lord has to Lord has to Lord has to be incarnated again and again to restore righteousness, to restore virtues over vices. This is the thing I want to say that. So here, when it is how it is associated, the Indian traditional ethical pattern, how it is associated with the religions of with Vedas and the other religions of Indian origin, that I am wanted to cite here, because we know that Indian ethical tradition, it is very much intimately connected with the religion, and they are so closely related, and whatever may be religion, it definitely contains with itself some system of morality. Whether you talk about Jainism, you find out that there is an ethics. Whether you talk about Buddhism, they are Indian origin, that's why I'm citing them. So even in Buddhism, they are talking about Ashtanga Marga. So there is also ethics. And in Indian traditional pattern, in the Puranas, in the Sahitas, or you talk about in the Vedas, in the Karmakanda, in the Gadakanda, everywhere ethics is given primacy, that we know. So you see, So when we talk about the Indian ethical tradition, you know that, or from our discussions, we get to know that this ethical tradition in every religion there are very good number of chapters, you can see good number of discussions on the ethics, because finally it is the morality, it is the ethics that will guide its followers. Okay, so you can say that Indian ethics, it is an indispensable part of the Hindu religion and other religions of Indian origin. Okay, so when we talk about again morality as an institution, it consists in the awareness of the distinction between is and ought. So there is always in ethics, there is always a dichotomy between is and ought. What is may not be the case, what ought to be. So there is again you see that there is a discrimination between moral agent and animals. We are the moral agents. They are moral patients. There is a discrimination that between moral agent and moral patient. Or you can say that you can make a distinction between higher faculty of reason and animal instinct. That's why from the very beginning, I have told you that we talk of ethics. Ethics has its own meaning only in the human domain. In the animal society, we do not talk of ethics at all. Why? Because of the possession of reason. It is the higher faculty, and that higher faculty helps you, it makes you, or it tries to make you understand that your good life is there only when others are good. You are safe only when others are safe. So you cannot have, being a man, you cannot have rule over other all other things, because you see a very small thing I can say. If you see, the corona pandemic already taught us many things. If you see the bacteria, they will join their hands together. What will be our situation? You just imagine. So we have to, if there will be no tree, what will be our consequence? What will be our situations? You just now also we are living in concrete jungle, but still there are some of them. But if there will be not a single tree, what will be your situation? You could very well visualize. So you see that therefore I say that we must, that morality, it is an institution which makes us aware that we must make the distinction between is and ought. We must be able to understand the distinction between moral agent and patient. You can say we talk of animal rights. Okay, nowadays PETA, people's ethical treatment for animals. We do talk of PETA. We animal lovers are there. Those who are giving slogans not to kill them. Because you see, if we analyze the entire process, you came to know that we are very much close to the animals only in the dining table, either in the form of a pakoda or in the form of a curry or something like this. But you see, uh, when we say that you can, there are arguments. There are people who argues that if I will not eat fish, then the fishes are going to eat me up. But that is not the thing. If the argument is this, we do not, the worms that are there in the drain, we do not eat them, but they are not eating us. So you cannot, nature has a balance in that way, you can say. So I am not going deep into that. So there is a moral agent, there is a moral patient also. The in the why I am saying that, we can say that the animals, they have a right, but our, we have not only right, we have the duties towards others. But the animals, they have only rights to life, but corresponding no duty. Suppose in your family there is a deformed child, okay, there is a physically handicapped child, you know. So you cannot say that I have rights and I have duties, being the mother, being the father. So correspondingly, he must have rights and duties. No, here because he is incapable of discharging his duties, so he has no corresponding duty. But we have all rights to take care of that person. So similarly, you can say that we make this distinction because we possesses higher reason, and there is animal instinct is there. That animal instinct is also with us. But along with this animal instinct, we possesses something higher, that is, you can say, that is the faculty of reason. We can reason out the things in favor of us. So, with this, here I want to ask a question, I want to raise a question. What is that? Now, if Indian ethics, the nature of the Indian ethics is such, so what is the source of morality in India? Okay, from where we get that moral cognition, from where we get that moral insightfulness, that you can say that moral uh, consciousness. So, in India, we see there are two traditions. Okay, one is a Shruti tradition and another one is the Smruti tradition. What is Shruti? Shruti means we remember by hearing. Shruti, we heard it and remembered. So these are called as Veda is called the Veda is called as the Shruti, and it is named as revealed text. So if we ask more questions on Veda, it is said that there are so many mantras. So there must be a question might come to our mind that there must be some being who has written these mantras. No, even it is said that mantra drashtavyaha rishi. The rishis, they have seen the mantras and it is accordingly after it is written. So the entire ethical tradition, the entire philosophy, you can say, it is a footnote to the Vedas. You can interpret in that way. So along with this, besides this Shruti tradition, we have also another tradition that is called Smruti tradition. And when we talk about the Smruti tradition, there are Dharma Shastras, Manu Smrutis, you can say Manu Smruti. So, and there are Puranas, all others are there. So, when we talk about one of the very important Prasthanatraya, that is Bhagavad Gita, because we, all of us are more or less accustomed, acquainted with ourselves in the Bhagavad Gita. So, a question may raised here, Bhagavad Gita belongs to either which tradition, whether it belongs to Shruti or it belongs to Smruti. I can say that it belongs to both. It belongs to both Shruti tradition and it belongs to the both Smruti tradition. So you see, when we talk about Veda, there are two parts. Broadly, we divide Veda into two parts. One is the Karma Kanda and another one is the Jnana Kanda. Okay. So Karma Kanda talks about, gives much more importance on actions, karmas. So there are different classification of karmas like Nitya Karma, Naimitika Karma and Kamya Karma. Nitya Karma means every day we take food, we bath, we take rest. These are all Nitya Karmas, daily activities. And Naimitika Karma means obligatory actions or occasional actions. Suppose I give Pindadana to my father, so to my late father, so every day I am not doing this. So this is called Naimitika Karma. And again, you can say that Kamya Karma, that is you can say the sacrifice that you are doing, yajnas that you are performing so that you will have punyas, that is called the Kamya Karma. Suppose there is some mistake, suppose in Jain philosophy you will see that they are every time they are repenting that they are in this mundane life. So even for your act you also can repent. So that is the Prayaschitta Karma. These are all Kamya Karmas. So Shruti, you can talk about whether the Shruti tradition or the Smriti tradition, or you can say that our the conscience, reason, even you can say talk about the contemporary thinkers like Mahatma Gandhi, Aravinda, Vivekananda, Tagore. They all are, you can say that they all are the source of morality for all of us. So, because you see, when Vivekananda addressed in the Chicago conference, Chicago religious conference, there after the conference, after his speech is over, all have gifted him so many things with very good foods, with all valuable things. He very politely he denied everything, and he said that lakhs and lakhs of people in my country, they are deprived of getting roti and dal every day, a good meal every day, it is not provided, they are not able to get it. So how can I take this sumptuous food? How can I take this palatable food? No, I'm very sorry, I can take only roti and dal. So similarly, you see, even from the here I also want to cite one other thing, because I may be uh, may not be able to recall it properly. I can say that only when we talk about, only when after some war, I think India Pakistan war, or I am unable to recall properly. After that, you see. Lata Mangeshkar. She has she is, I think she is bestowed. She is compelled to sing a song to arrange some money. ये मेरे वतन के लोगों जरा आंखों में भर लो पानी. With this, people have contributed everything for the country, for the development, for the army, for the country. So you see, so you can say that there are, so morality, it is not only in India, it is not only, there are iconic persons, there are ideal persons. Even we are very much influenced by Lord Hanuman, we are very much influenced by Maryada Purush Ramchandra. So you cannot, so besides your Shruti, Vedas, Smritis, and Puranas, Bhagavad Gita, your conscience, your reason, even the iconic persons, ideal persons that we do talk of, that we discuss in different forums, you can take them as the source of morality. Okay. So this is about the Shruti and Smriti tradition. Let me come to other religions of Indian origin which also talk about ethics. One is, I will only discuss here two religions. One is Jainism and another one is Buddhism. Both are contemporary. Both came only as a reactionary movement against the Brahmanical practice. So against Brahmanism. So you can say that the Jainism, they are particularly after Jainism, I will discuss about Buddhism. In Jainism, we talk of three jewels. Okay, three ratna. We talk of three ratnas. That is the right faith, samyak drushti, I think, uh, and right knowledge, samyak gyan, and right conduct, samyak charitra. Okay, always the right faith, that is the, you can say, Jathartha Sankalp, you can say, or even you can say that it is the Samyak Drushti, that is named as that is the first jewel of the Jaina ethics, you can say. Because everything here, everything everything, right perspective is very much needed, because everything here put into the acid test of right reasoning before following them. So everything you have to be, you cannot blindly follow a practice. You cannot blindly follow a particular religion. You must have the right reasoning to follow it, and that is the right faith, you can say. So the Jainism, and you talk about Buddhism, or even you talk about the Indian traditions, all of the traditions, all of the Indian ethical traditions, they talk of in terms of law of karma. Every system, you can say, every religious practices, you can say, every religion even, you can say, they believe in law of karma, because the doctrine of karma or the law of karma, that tells you, as you sow, so shall you reap. Okay. So, and it is very much expressed in the Bhagavad Gita in the Karma Yoga Adhyaya. Okay, there are chapters on Karma Yoga. It is very much openly, you can say that the doctrine of karma and Karma Yoga, they are not similar. There is difference. Because of the paucity of time, I am just going very fast, so that I can say that only that law of karma tells you that every action has its inevitable consequences. Every action that we do. Again, you see, action does not mean only physical actions. Mental actions are also there. Okay. So every action has its inevitable consequence. When we do an action, definitely the consequence is there. Whether we immediately get the consequence, or it takes some years, or it takes some bars, that is another issue, but it must have its consequence. Okay. If right action is done, then definitely there will be the right consequences. If good action is done, then definitely there will be the good consequences. If bad action is performed, then there will be bad consequences. So you cannot say that I have the choice of an action, I have chosen a bad action, but I cannot undergo the consequence. This is not allowed. This is not allowed. This is not all about the doctrine of karma. The doctrine of karma tells you, the theory of karma tells you that action has its inevitable consequences. Whether you are free whether to do the action or not to do the action. You are free because you have a free choice. So you are free. Similarly, you are free either to attend the class or not to attend the class. You have that freedom. But once you opted to join the class, you have to follow certain rules and regulations. Okay. Similarly, you are free either to do the action or not to do the action. But after once you have made the choice to do the action, you have to undergo whatever the consequences may be. You have to undergo the consequence is inevitable. You cannot avoid the consequence. You have to undergo the consequence. This is the doctrine of karma. Even in Indian ethics also, we talk of Rita. Rita means RTA, capital R. Always you have to write it as the capital R, RTA. That is Rita means that is the moral order. There is a vivid discussion of Rita in the Rig Veda, the first Veda, Ruk, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. In the first Veda, there is there is a vivid discussion on Rita, and that Rita, or you can say that it is the moral order, that Rita has its expression in two more other concepts. That is, one is dharma and another one is karma. Okay, it is dharma and another one is karma. Let me speak more about the Shruti and Smriti tradition. Then I will come back to Jainism and Buddhism. Okay, so dharma and karma. In the again, I will go back to Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Karma Yoga chapter, you see we talk of varnasrama dharma. It is a very important part of the entire Bhagavad Gita. You see what is varnasrama dharma. There is again, Lord Himself is saying that the Bhagavad Gita about because it is a dialogue between Lord and his disciple Arjuna, because Arjuna was reluctant to fight and Lord persuaded him to fight, and only through counseling sessions, Lord take 18 sessions so that he can convince Arjuna to fight, and Arjuna finally agreed to fight because it is no more it is a dharma khetra, it is a dharma juddha. Lord interpreted that it is not just like any ordinary war. It is a dharma juddha. So you have to fight. You cannot. There are also some other things for which again finally Arjuna was convinced to fight, and Arjuna finally fought and won the battle. Okay, so that dharma, when we talk about karma yoga, there is another thing that is varnasrama dharma. What is that? Varnasrama dharma is a composite word. If we'll analyze them, then you see that there are two words. One is varna dharma and another one is ashrama dharma. Okay. Varna dharma means your dharma here. I am telling you that dharma never interpreted in Indian ethical tradition, even in Indian tradition as religion. Dharma is much more higher than religion. Dharma is to be understood as duty. Okay. So dharma means duty. That is varna dharma means your duty as per your station in society. Try to understand. There are some complexities. Okay. Varna dharma means Varna does not mean color. We usually what we say, her Varna is black, she is whitish color. It does not mean the color of your skin. No. Varna means your station in the society. So Lord says, Chatur Varna Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Abhigasa. I have created the fourfold order, taking into account Guna and Karma. You see how? So when you see that Guna and Karma, your qualities and your actions, that determine to which station you belong to in the society. That determine your varnas. Suppose you see Prahalada, you take the example of Prahalada. Prahalada belonged to the demon group. Okay, his father Hiranyakashipu is another demon, very renowned one, very ferocious one also, you can say, just like wild person. So you see, repeatedly Prahalada, he used to ask Prahalada, every time he was taking the name of Lord. So Hiranyakashipu got annoyed. He asked him that your Lord is everywhere. Now, yes, of course. He is going to save you. Yes, of course. So he tied him in a pillar. Okay. So there only Lord came. And there is a saying, Prahallada Pita se je bada dushta daruna stambaru bahari taku vidarila dakshana. You see, there is a saying like this. So you can say that dharma, my point of why I am saying this, because you see, suppose one having the surname of, just like me, one having the surname of Sarangi, but practicing all the Brahman activities. Can you say that she is a Brahmin? No, and never. Because my gunas and my actions that speaks against Brahmin. So I cannot be a Brahmin. So how the fourfold classification, how it is determined? It is determined by the quality and the action. Why at all four? Why we need four? Because the society to run to maintain the healthiness, to have a smooth society, we need Brahmins. They will learn the Vedas and they will disseminate that knowledge to the other people. And there are also Kshatriyas, because you see, because the soldier is there, they are guarding our border. That's why we are taking the class here. Otherwise, it would not have been possible. So similarly, you see, there we need a business community also, because here in Bhubaneswar, I need apple from cherry, or from Peru, from Kashmir, I need apple. So there must be a business community who is making all this possible for all of us. And besides this, there is also another community who has a service mentality. They are called as Sudras. Okay, so we have fourfold order. Even in the West, in the philosophy of Plato, you can also find out there is philosopher king, there are rulers, there are um, the toiler group of people are there. So you can say that in Indian tradition we have Varna Dharma, and which is determined by the quality and action, and that therefore we have four Varnas of people are there here: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Okay, that is fine. Okay, so come to Ashrama Dharma, and again the Ashrama Dharma tells you that there are certain assigned duties one is expected to perform as one belongs to one station in life. So you see, Varna Dharma is determined by one station in society. Ashrama Dharma is determined by one station in life. In Vedic period, life is assumed to be of 100 years. Okay. So each 25 year is dedicated for a particular ashram. So there are also four ashramas. You will see Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Okay. So what is that Brahmacharya ashram? That Brahmacharya ashram is meant strictly for celibacy. Sanjamata, you will how to control your sense organs, how to maintain your celibacy, that you need to be trained in the brahmacharya ashram. Besides the brahmacharya, after 25, you will come back, when a person will come back from the Gurukul ashram, then he is allowed to enter. Some rituals are there. He will be mundan and he will be given new clothes. Something is there. After that, he will enter into Grahastha life. What is the assigned duty of the Grahastha life? That the Grahastha is to procreate the progeny, so that the sustenance of life will be there, so that generation will continue. And at the same time, he has to do pindadanas, he has to look after his old parents, and you can say that he has to, at the same time, another most very very important duty he has to discharge, that is he has to look after the monks, the rishis, though they are 24 into 7, they are working for the common good of the entire community. So they have to feed them, they have to give them as gifts, they have to give them clothes, they have to give them blankets. So this is dana, in the form of dana he has to do this. So this is the grahastha life. And 50 is covered, okay, 25 plus 25, 50. Then another 25, that is a withdrawal period. Withdrawal period, I can suppose, you see, I used to give uh, the participants, all of you are Odia people. Hello, all the participants, students, I mean participants means students, are you all Odia people?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you visited Kala Mandir here in Bhubaneswar? There is a
Yes, ma'am.
shop where in big shop, you can meant for clothes and garments. Okay, so if you visit that shop, you will see, after Corona, you will see the oldest man. He is in a particular house is made up of glass. He is there sitting in this way, looking at everything, doing nothing. Okay. So you see, and all other junior people, I mean, his family members, young members, they are working, they are here and there, they are going. But this person is simply looking at that people are coming, purchasing, going, doing nothing. Even he will not be out from that glass suite. Okay. So this is the withdrawal. Because if my children will go wrong somewhere, I'm here to, I will not directly involve in the business withdrawing, but if something, some urgency will come, I will here to help them, to guide them the right path. Okay. So even you will be very much surprised why this withdrawal takes 25 years again. Again, you say your mind is such that it is immediately, it will not withdraw. So it takes time. So for withdrawal even, there is also 25 years is devoted. So after Banaprastha, it is symbolic. Not necessarily he will go to a deep forest, do something, blah, 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 then only he will be enlightened. No, not necessarily. So it is only symbolic. So again, after that, he entered into sannyasa till the last breath. That is what is the ultimate truth. Then what is, at least, if at all no realization, at least he can have the realization that this body is not everything. At least I'm telling you, if there is a genuine, there is some intellectual wise people, then they have better understanding. I do not disagree with that. But at least the through sannyasa, they understand that this body will perish one day. This body is not everything, and I am something beyond this body. At least this much knowledge will be there. So we have varna dharma and we have ashrama dharma, right? So that when we talk about that brahmana, that kshatriya, vaishya, sudra, how you expect that one is behaved in this way? By his, I'm telling you, Lord Himself says that I am, it is because of guna and karma. Guna and karma, your quality and your action will speak that you belong to which community, whether you belong to Brahmin or you are a Brahmin means never tell that Panigrahi Misra something like that. No, whether you are Brahmin by your action, by your thought, or by your guna, or you are a Kshatriya, because you see, people are there, you see, for out of nothing they quarrel. They are Kshatriyas. And you see, even very small children, they can do business. And they have you can see the Marwadi community, they are skilled in doing good business. So you can say them there is, so by guna and karma, they are Kshatriyas, they are Vaishyas, they are Sudras. Mother Teresa, she is a Sudra because she has the service mentality. Okay, so that guna and karma, it is addressed in the Bhagavad Gita in a very beautiful manner. That guna and karma, how it is determined. That in this life I will have this guna and I will be enjoying this karma. How this is determined? So it is determined by my saskaras. Okay. So you see, Lord asked Arjuna, what is your dharma, swadharma? Lord says that Swadharma Nidhana Sreya Paradharma Bhayava. Why? Because there only Arjuna said that I am not going to fight. Because if I will fight, I will kill many peoples, thereby I will accrue more papas. So here I am not going to fight at all. I am just quitting the field. Okay. So Lord came to his rescue. बोले कि Lord told, you cannot leave the battlefield, you have to fight. Why I have to fight? Now because you are a Kshatriya by birth. So what is your Swadharma? Your Swadharma is to fight for the right. Okay? Fight for the righteousness. So you cannot leave the battle. Even I am not allowing you to leave the battle. So you see, that means there is your guna and karma is decided, your varna, I mean Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, there is Swadharma. If I am a Brahmin, I have the Swadharma to disseminate knowledge. If I am a Kshatriya, I have to fight for the right. I have to look into the matter that all my community members, they are getting justice. They are in a very peaceful lifestyle is there. That is maintained. That is the you can say that is the duty of the state to look into this matter. So, you see, that is the Swadharma. Again, the question that comes to my mind that how Swadharma is determined? Now, by my saskaras, because here in this life, I am in a teaching profession, I am teaching you, it is decided not by this action of this life, it is decided by the actions of the previous lives. So by that, what also Buddha also teaching in the same line, that past, present and future, they are interconnected. They are just like, you see, they are just like a big garland having different color of flowers. There are underlying thread that puts them together. So what is the underlying thread here in the past, present and future? The underlying thread is the law of karma. You can say that the underlying thread is the doctrine of karma, which tells you that as you sow, so shall you reap. If you have done good actions, then definitely good result is outing for you. If you have done bad actions, then bad result is outing for you. Suppose if you make a calculation that I have done 10 good actions and I have done 5 bad actions. So 10 minus 5, still in the higher side there is 5 good actions. No, friends, this is not going to be this sort of calculation is not applicable in the karma account. For each of your good act you will be rewarded, similarly for each of your bad act you will be punished. Okay, so if I go details into that, then I may not be able to cover the entire thing. So I am stopping here only, and I will move on to Jainism and Buddhism in a very nutshell. Both Jainism and Buddhism, they do accepted the doctrine of karma, and they do accepted the law of karma. And in Jaina ethics, when we talk about the Jaina ethics, they give very much importance on the three jewels, that is right faith, and that right faith is must be possible through the right reasoning, so that I can understand, so that we can understand even in this mundane life, even though I am in all comfort zone, still it is a some sort of suffering. It is because I am, as long as I am, that may be, you see, you may be chained. The chain may be made up of gold or it may be made up of iron, but you are chained, that matters more than anything else. That you have to understand. So we say that the right faith is there, Samyak Gyan, and that right faith will give me the right knowledge. What is that right knowledge? Even if I'll go back, because Sankara is very much dearer to me. So if I Sankara's philosophy, so Sankara once said that Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka Jnana. I must be able to make the appropriate discrimination between what is Nitya and what is Anitya. Similarly, here Jaina says that I must able to make the distinction between Jiva and Ajiva. Okay, so I must able to make the distinction between why I am in bondage, why I am in bondage, why I am suffering. Though it is a you can say that though this world, it is a world of all comfort, all happiness, all luxury, all good things, still it is a taking birth, having a life, having a body, it is a bondage in the language of Jain people. Okay, so this is that why I am in bondage now, because of the law of karma. Whether there is a good result or bad result, that binds you. So they in different steps, like they says that the karmic particle, they are just like sticky substances. ଯେମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଅଠାଳିଆ ଜିନିଷ, suppose you see, you talk about a mirror, if there is dust and if you wipe out properly, then you see your reflection properly. Okay, ଗୋଟେ ମିରରରେ ଧୂଳି ଲାଗିଯାଇଛି, ଧୂଳିଟାକୁ ପୋଛିଦେଲେ ତମେ ଠିକରେ ଦେଖିପାରୁଛ. In that way you can say that there are the karmic particles, they are just like kasaya, sticky substances. They bind, they just stick to the soul, they just stick to the soul, and by that the pristine nature of the soul that gets stuck. Okay, pristine nature soul ra kana na, it is the infinite knowledge, infinite faith, infinite power. All these natures, they get stuck up because of the karmic particles. So you have to follow a certain procedure, and thereby you can eradicate all the karmic particles. Then you will get liberation. So for that you have to follow a ethical pattern, and that ethical pattern will tell you that right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. So that right knowledge, to get that right knowledge, you have to read the scriptures of Mahavir, and the scriptures will give you the right knowledge, and that right knowledge and the right faith, that will be reflected in your behavior, that will be reflected in your conduct. So these three things will get together, they will pave the path for liberation, right? So coming to Buddhism, I can again say that even the Buddhism, they also believe in the doctrine of karma, and they deny the soul, anatma bada. They are saying that no soul theory, soul is not permanent. There is just there is no identity, there is only similarity, but at the same time they believe in the doctrine of karma. So how we can get rid of that bondage? Now, by following the right noble path. Okay, and in Jainism we talk of four Arya Satyas. That is, there is dukkha samudaya, dukkha nirodha gamini pratipat. There is suffering, there must be cause of suffering, and the again there is a possibility to be get rid of suffering, and by how I can free from suffering, by following a particular way of life, and that particular way of life is nothing but the ethics of the Buddhism, and that ethics of Buddhism tells you that you have to follow follow a particular way of life. That is, you must have right faith, you must have right knowledge, you must have right living, you must have the you can say that right earning, and you can say that right determination. So, jaha ko ame kahuche yathartha sankalp is also required. And by following this noble eightfold path, you can, along with that, Jainism is very much famous for another thing, compassionate. Jaina, particularly in the sorry, Buddhism is Jainism is famous for ahimsa. Even Jaina people, they says that you have to practice the uh, non-violence in not only physically but also mentally. Manasa ahimsa, they are giving importance on. But Jainism talk about Pancha Mahabrata, you have to follow, and the same thing is also named as Pancha Sila in the Buddhism, that is Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କ'ଣ ହେଲା ସତ୍ୟ ଅସ୍ତେୟ ସତ୍ୟ ଅହିଂସା ଅସ୍ତେୟ brahmacharya aparigraha. Okay, what is that satya? Truth we have to speak, because the Indian ethics is very much famous, and all the Indian religions, you can say, they give much importance and truth. Satyam vada dharmam chara, na satya vada na dharma chara, there is a saying like this. So you have to speak the truth. Okay, so again, truth, after the truth, you see, there is non-violence. You have to be non-violent. You have to practice ahimsa in letter and spirit. You have to practice non-violence in religiously. That means in your thought, in your word, as well as in your deed, you have to practice non-violence. Okay, so satya and ahimsa. Okay, third one is asteya, non-stealing. Non-stealing, you see, nowadays stealing is in more demand, because you see, suppose I will open Google Baba is there, I'll open some article and I'll copy from there and I'll paste it somewhere else, and I'll say that this is mine, Kalyani Sarami, I'll write. So that is a form of stealing, So it is also Jainism and Buddhism in the Pancha Mahavrata as well as in the Panchasila. It is given importance that we have to practice non-stealing. Okay, stealing of any form is not advocated, is not appreciated. So it is denounced. Stealing is denounced. Okay, so to have a ethical code, it is denounced. So similarly, there is brahmacharya, that is very much famous. We have to maintain celibacy. We have to maintain, because that celibacy, brahmacharya, will make us more accommodative. So brahmacharya we have to practice, and the final one, that is aparigraha, जोटाकि आमे कहूचे non possession. Okay, even you see in Jainism it is said that Jaina people, they apply, they follow aparigraha to that extent that even in the Shvetambara, okay, sorry, Digambara, a group of people, you see, they are called as sky-cladded person. Even they have not purchased clothes also. Okay, so there is extreme form of practice you can find out in Jainism. There you can find out that Pancha Mahabrata is to be by the monks. It has to be strictly followed, and by the laity, by the common man, by the householders, there are some form of liberation is there. Even in the Buddha, they talked about Panchasila, and that you have to practice, and by that you can get good conduct. You can say you can reach the highest good, and which is actually that is what you can say, that is what is required only to be a good man. Finally, when we talk about ethics, we are in search of a good man. What is the criteria of a good man? That we can find out. Okay, with this much, I think there are also manusmritis where there are beautiful descriptions of ritualism, social morality, etc. And you see again in different Upanishads, There are also, you see, I will talk about Manusmriti in only one line. That is the Manusmriti talks about the, social structure. It talks about, it gives importance on the duties. And in Bhagavad Gita, we can reach to a higher state where we will do the action, but we are no more in bondage. We are no more binded by the consequences of action. That is the Niskam Karma. With this only, let me have some water, then I will go to the another half an hour is there. So we'll discuss about the Western ethics. ପିଲାମାନେ ବୁଝି ହେଉଛି ନା ବୁଝି ହେଉନି ସେଟା ସବୁଠୁ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଆର୍ ୟୁ ଫଲୋଇଂ ଅର୍ ନଟ୍ ପିଲାମାନେ ବୁଝି ହେଉଛି କି ଗୋଟେ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରିକି କୁହ whether you are following me or not ଯାହା ପଢ଼ା ହେଉଛି ହ୍ୟାଲୋ ବିଷ୍ଣୁପ୍ରିୟା ଇଜ୍ ଦେୟାର ନା ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କର ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ
Yes,
ଆର୍ ୟୁ
ma'am.
ଫଲୋଇଂ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ
Okay.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ
Okay, okay. So we'll proceed on to the part 4 of this block 1, unit 4 of this block 1, which is named as ethics in the history of Western philosophy. Okay. So particularly you see, when we talk about the Western philosophy, we see that there are two broad traditions. What are these traditions? One is the, or you can say, you divide Western ethics into two traditions, and that Western tradition is named as the deontological tradition and the teleological tradition. Okay, there is a teleological tradition we see in Western ethics, and similarly we see there is a deontological tradition in Western ethics. The very word teleology, it derives from the root word telos. Telos means an end or a goal or a purpose, you can say, you can see. And similarly, the word deontology, it derives from the root word deon. Deon means, you can say, which is binding, or you can say it to be the duty. Okay. So, if we go back to this teleological ethics, again you know that teleological ethics, it tells you that the ultimate human end, the ultimate purpose of human being, the ultimate goal of human being is to get happiness. Okay. So that is what is taught by Aristotle to all of us, because Aristotle's ethics is named as eudaimonia ethics. Eudaimonia, Eudaimonia. Eudaimonia means, again you can say that, happiness. Okay. So you can see that the ultimate end of human life is what? Is to get happiness. Okay, that is the because here we are talking about teleological ethics. Teleological ethics talks about the end of life, talks about the final aim of life, final goal of life. So here it is interpreted that according to Aristotle, what is the aim of life? What is the aim? What is the end of life? Only to get eudaimonia, is only to get happiness. Okay. So if that happiness is divided into that happiness, if we turn that happiness into a crude form, into a sensuous form, into a narrow form, then it is called as hedonistic ethics. And if we talk it in the form of self-realization, then it is called as the, you can say, this is called as the eudaimonia ethics. Okay. What is that? Now, again, this teleological theory is broadly divided into twofold. One is hedonism and another one is altruism. Okay. One is hedonism and another one is altruism. What is hedonism and what is altruism? Hedonism derives from the root word hedon. Hedon means pleasure, and those who are saying that pleasure is the summum bonum, pleasure is everything in an individual life, they are called as hedonist. Okay. Those who are saying that No, pleasure of the individual is not enough. There is a classification of pleasure. There is a hierarchy of pleasure because by gulping 10 sweets and reading a book, there is hell and heaven difference. So how can I identify both of them? Those who are talking about introducing some hierarchy of pleasure, they are named as altruistic philosophers. Okay. So, or you can say them to be utilitarian philosophers. So, teleological ethics broadly divided into twofold. One is the hedonism, and another one is the altruism. And when we talk about hedonism, and pleasure or happiness is the ultimate end of individual life. So here we are only concerned with the individual person specific. I will bother only about my pleasure. I will bother only about my happiness. So that hedonism, which is named as only person specific, pleasure per person concerned, that is named as ethical egoistic hedonism. Okay, ethical egoistic hedonism. Ethical, why it is concerned as ethical? Because there is psychological hedonism and there is ethical hedonism. Ethical hedonism means they are saying that pleasure is desirable. You see, when we make the use of ought, right, should not, immediately that becomes ethical. So by saying that pleasure ought to be sought, pleasure is desirable, ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ କୁହାହଉଛି କ'ଣ, they are ethical hedonist. ତାର chief advocate, the chief advocate of ethical hedonism is, you can talk about Bentham, or you can talk about in the Western tradition, you can talk about the chief ethical hedonism is Epicurean, Aristippus, Hobbes, and when they talk about the happiness, happiness is not something pleasure, because happiness, to calculate happiness, we need so much pleasures have to be calculated. So particularly Aristotle talked about this higher form of this happiness. So hedonism, in one side teleological theory you see hedonism, and another side you will see utilitarianism. Utilitarianism talks about happiness, maximum happiness for maximum number of people, because it is not individualistic, it is not egoistic, it is not person specific, it is not person concerned. It talks about maximum happiness for maximum number of people, and because that maximum happiness for maximum number of people, there are two thinkers you can see. One is the Jeremy Bentham, who talked about quantitative utilitarianism, and another one is Mill, J.S. Mill, John Stuart Mill, who talked about qualitative utilitarianism. So the entire teleological theories is divided into twofold. One is egoism, and another one is hedonism, and another one is utilitarianism. Again, that hedonism is divided into twofold. What is that? One is ethical egoism, and another one is altruistic. And similarly, the utilitarianism is divided into qualitative utilitarianism and quantitative utilitarianism. Okay, so particularly you see, when we talk about the ethical egoism, I have already told you Epicurean and Aristotle. I have named some of the philosophers. So let's see the Epicurus approach to this ethical standard. Epicurus says that Epicurean philosophy, it promotes emotions of well-being, harmony, and pleasure. Okay, Epicurus, in the Epicurean philosophy, you will see that he talked of he coined a particular concept, that is the philosophy of garden, where you will only seek pleasure and nothing else. Okay, so usually we will get pleasure when we will be away from pain, when we will be away from fear, when we will be away from even a very tiny idea of getting pain. So there must be you can say there must be a serenity of mind, and that serenity of mind, you can say, that will definitely give us pleasure, and that pleasure we must seek. And Epicurus' insight is that the criteria of morality, which must be based upon upon, you can say, upon seeking pleasure that is conducive for the human final end. That means man has to seek pleasure, and that pleasure is possible when you will be away from pain, when you will be away from fear, when there is, you can say, there is refinement in life, there is friendship, there is art, music, everything is like that, so that there is pleasure, and that constitutes the, you can say, that constitutes the criterion of morality. Okay, so coming to, because in that category I am talking about Aristotle, and coming to Aristotle, Aristotle says that man is basically a perfect man. Always wants to be perfect person. There is everybody, from a poor to rich, from literate to illiterate, and any religion they belong to, they always seek their perfections only. Okay, so here again he distinguishes between two kinds of human actions that can help us attain authentic happiness, and these are the moral and intellectual virtues. So Kant says that we must look for two things that will make us perfect. What are these two things? One is the intellectual virtue, and another one is the moral virtue. Okay, one is the intellectual virtue. You must be intellectually inclined, because if you will be intellectually inclined, you will get to know that you are not an animal, you are more than an animal, because animals do not possess intellect, you possess intellect. So intellectual virtue has to be inculcated along with the moral virtues, because both these virtues, if put into practice, they will make a being a perfect being. Okay, so he says that the moral rightness or wrongness is seen more in terms of good consciously intended by human agent. Okay, so if I consciously pursue intellectual virtue and the moral virtue, whatever I will do, that will be a right action. Okay, so if moral virtue is with me, I cannot go wrong. Whatever I will do, that will be right. Okay, so that is, so he gives much more importance on conscience, you can say conscience oriented things, and by that he says that if we practice that, then you can get the, you can do all things that is termed as good actions. There is also another person that is named as Thomas Aquinas, who belonged to medieval period, and in the medieval period, all the saints are there. Saint Aquinas, Thomas Aquinas is a saint. They have religious influence. They have the Christianity influence is there. So Thomas Aquinas, he said that the norm of morality is ultimately God's eternal law or eternal religion. So man is nothing to do with it, and it is finally it is the God's eternal religion. You can say it is the God's eternal law, but it is it is proximately connected with the human reason. Okay. Similarly, he also make a distinction between speculative and practical reason, because of the speculative reason is nothing but the theoretical reason, and when we talk about the practical reason, we give importance on the moral conduct. Okay, जो theory टा अच्छी, that theory which I have, if I have not put it into practice, then the theory has no meaning. If I have what I am doing with not a theoretical background, that practice may not be appreciated. So you can say that the theory and the practice, they must go hand in hand to have a better, to have a, you can say, to have a moral conduct. But at the same time, he says that because there is influence of Christianity, because of that he says that there are some first principles, and from that first principles we derive from second principles or secondary principles, you can say. And that first principles are self-evident principles. For their truth we do not need of anything else, because they are the self-evident principles. And when we apply this from this, when we derive certain secondary principles, that is applicable to particular cases, even to concrete cases. Okay, so again you can say that besides this there are also other thinkers, particularly Hobbes. There is a very famous book of Hobbes, classical book, that is called as Leviathan, where he talked about a description of man in the free state of nature. Okay, Leviathan, where he described the man in the free state of nature, where he can understand that he is not only a brute force, he is something higher than, because he has a free will. He has a, by exercising that free will, he can make certain free choices. So Hobbes here says that the actions are bad because they are forbidden, not the other way around. So the moral source of rightness or wrongness, the criterion of morality is what is the law says, whether it be divine law or it is a positive law of nature. So because man is in the free state of nature, so it may be a divine state, it may be a natural state, but man has to do good only when what is prescribed, and man should not do that what is forbidden. That is the view of Hobbes. Apart from that, there is also Jeremy Bentham. I have told you. Bentham says that, you see, Bentham talks about more and more of a gross pleasure. Okay. He talks about quantitative pleasure. He tells that where pleasure and pain, as the balance stands, so the rightness or the wrongness of the action. So let us weight pleasure and pain. Suppose you see, suppose suppose तार गोटे quotation अच्छी that I am saying, pushpin is better than poetry. Suppose I will read a poetry and I will pinch someone. Okay, but if by pinching someone I get more pleasure, then that is a good action. Okay, but do you accept it? No, never, because this is a very rudimentary level, rudimentary way of understanding what is called pleasure. So Bentham says that as the balance stands, weigh pleasure and pain, as the balance stands, so the rightness or the wrongness of the action. An action is right if there is surplus of pleasure over pain. An action is wrong if there is surplus of pain over pleasure, otherwise not. Okay. How to quantify the pleasure? So here, how to quantify that pleasure? He just talked about, seven dimensions of pleasure. That is, if a thing is pleasurable, if it is intense. Suppose we compare two things. The intense pleasure must be preferable. The proximity pleasure must be preferable. The purity means devoid of any pain. Pure pleasure must be preferable. Certain pleasure must be preferable. And fecundity, that means it affects a number of people, that must be preferable. But you see, Bentham is highly criticized, because when we talk about pleasure, we do certain things. After completing that certain thing, after finishing that certain thing, after finishing that course of action, we can think whether I get pleasure or not. But beforehand, suppose I am traveling, suppose I am going to a picnic, just I am entering into the bus, I calculate whether I am getting pleasure or not. And when they provide me some food, while taking the food, I calculate whether I am getting the pleasure or not. Definitely, I am sure to miss it. I will never, I will never enjoy the trip. Just do everything, and then when you come back from the picnic, you can calculate whether it was a pleasurable trip or not. Okay. So when Bentham says that That for that he is criticized severely, and he only talk about the physical pleasure because that is the more intense one. So his ethics as a standard is not appreciated. That's why we talk of another ethical theory, that is J.S. Mill. We talk of who talked about, who says that no, there is a higher kind hierarchy in pleasure. We can make a hierarchy by reading a book. If I get pleasure, that definitely occupy a higher position, higher place than the pleasure that I get by consuming 10 sweets. Okay, so there is physical, there is mental pleasure definitely given a superior place than the physical pleasure. That is what J.S. Mill is talking about. Okay, so Mill introduced, at the same time, Mill introduced, there are four sanctions that definitely will make us, cannot make us egoistic, rather make us utilitarian, maximum pleasure for maximum number of people. That is there is religious sanction is there, physical sanction is there, but to top it all, there is moral sanction. I always ask to my conscience, if I put it everything, if I put all the money in my bank account, whether it is good or not, definitely my conscience will say that no, it is a bad practice. So that voice of, we have to listen to that voice of conscience, because that voice of conscience will tell me what is right and what is wrong. Okay. After that, you see, we discuss the other part, and we completely discuss the teleological ethics. Then you come to the deontological ethics. Deontological ethics is developed by Immanuel Kant. You must be knowing his name. And in the Kant, there are three magnum opus of three trilogy. You can say the three creations of Immanuel Kant: critique of pure reason, critique of practical reason, and critique of judgment. And you see, in his critique of practical reason, he talks about ethics, where he is talking about anything cannot be good unless and until it is backed up by a good will. A thing is called, because why? Because goodwill is good by itself. So anything is to be called, the way we say that an action is so to be good, it has to be initiated by a right ideation, it has to initiated by the right intention. Similarly, Kant says that a thing is called good if it is not qualified by goodwill. So goodwill is good by itself. Along with that, he talks about three postulates of morality. What is that three postulates of morality? There is freedom of will. The first postulate is the freedom of will. Second one is the immortality of the soul. And third one is the existence of God. Because unless and until I have not the free will, I am abided by some mechanical laws. So how can I say that how can I will be allowed, I will be think of doing some good act. So because I have a free will, so I must exercise my free will in the right ideation. So there must be free choice, there must be free will. That is the first postulate of morality. Second postulate of morality is that there is immortality of soul. Soul is immortal. That's why we are saying that whatever I do, accordingly, whatever I am doing in the present, that is decided from my past karmas, and whatever I am doing present, that is going to decide my future. So soul is immortal. So each and every moment, the consequences of the action is reaped, and as you sow, so shall you reap. Again, you can say. So there is soul has to be. We have to assume when we talk about morality, we have to assume the soul is immortal. Otherwise, we cannot do good act. Otherwise, we cannot existence of God. God has to exist. Then only the meaning of morality will be meaningful. Because we have to see that there is a being. We all are imperfect. There is no doubt about it. But you see, we logically presuppose that there must be a perfect being. At times, we are not moral, we are not doing the things in the right direction, but there is a some being who is doing every act in just the 100% perfect manner. Okay, so we have to admit that there must be the existence of God, there must be the immortality of soul, and there is the free will. Then only the morality will be meaningful according to Immanuel Kant. Okay, so to conclude, I will come to the second unit, that is the some challenges that we come across with. The challenges we meet from for ethics, from situation ethics, you can say, because the situation ethics gives importance on situations, and the situationists, they try to enter into every decision making. Okay, so because I have already told you, we are living in a divergent value patterns, multicultural. We are living in a globe which is which believes in pluralistic of cultures. We have different value systems, we have different belief systems, and therefore you can say that there might be challenges from the situationist ethics, and that is very well addressed by the Joseph Fletcher. And you see that situation ethics, it can always tells you that we have to, no ethical rule is final, no ethical rule is objective. It can be interpreted, the situation will decide what is best for that situation. So here Panikkar, another situationist ethics, you can say, he says that we must have a room for diatopical exchange. That means we must have a room for dialogue between different cultures, because by sharing and caring we can learn, we can grow, and we can learn from one another, and we can grow together. And therefore one culture can offer the other culture in its best form, so that we can visualize Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and we can have a one family, one globe, and one earth. Thank you very much. If you have any doubt, you can unmute and you can ask me. No problem, no issue. ତାମାନେ କେହି ଶୁଣୁ ନା ଆଉ କ'ଣ? If there is no question, that means I have not reached you. There must be some questions. Hello? Just 5 minutes to 6. Hello? Any question from anyone? Mamta, any question?
No, ma'am.
You understood everything? ବୁଝିପାରିଲ?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ।
ଅମ୍ୟକାନ୍ତ ବାବୁ, ଆପଣଙ୍କର କିଛି there is no question? Ramchandra
No, madam.
Barik,
No,
no
madam.
questions? Okay.
No, madam.
You like this presentation or not?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have the again we will meet tomorrow with block 2. Okay, that block
Yes,
2 is about, I think, is about applied ethics. So we'll meet tomorrow at 4 p.m. I suppose so. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
yes,
Okay. Okay. So stay blessed. Thank you.
ma'am.
Bye. Okay. Bye.
ମମତା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ, ମମତା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ,
Yes.
ମମତା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ, ଏଇ କହୁଥିଲି ଟିକେ ଆପଣ ନମ୍ବରଟା ଦେଉଥିଲେ, ଏଇ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ହେରିକା ମୁଁ କିଛି ଲେଖିନି ନା, ଆଉ ଆପଣ ଯଦି ପଠେଇଥାନ୍ତେ ଟିକେ ଭଲ ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା।
ନାଇଁ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ ବି ତ ଲେଖି ନାହିଁ, ମୁଁ ତ ନିଜେ ୱାର୍କିଂ ଏଇନା ନା, ୱାର୍କିଂ ଲେଡି, ମୋର ଲେଖା ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିନାହିଁ, କିଛି ବି କଲେକ୍ଟ ବି ଏଯାଇ ବି କରିନାହିଁ।
ସୁଧୀର ସାର୍, ଆପଣ କିଛି କରିଛନ୍ତି କି? ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଖୋଲିଲେ ଆମର ଭଲ ହୁଅନ୍ତା। ଆଉ ସବୁରେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଅଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମ ଫିଲୋସଫିରେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ନାହିଁ। ଅଛନ୍ତି, ଖୋଲା ହେଇଛି କି, ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି କି?
ନାଇଁ, କାହିଁ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି।
ଗୋଟେ ଖୋଲିଥିଲେ ଭଲ ହୁଅନ୍ତା କିନ୍ତୁ।
ଭଲ ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା ତ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ବିଷ୍ଣୁପ୍ରିୟା ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଆପଣ ବି କିଛି ଲେଖା ଲେଖି ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କରିଛନ୍ତି କି?
କିଛି ବି ଲେଖିନି କିଛି ବି ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଲେଖା ଲେଖି ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିନି।
ଆମକୁ ଜଣା
ଏଇଟା
ଅଛି କି କେବେ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ର ସବମିଟ ଡେଟ୍ ଅଛି?
ହଁ ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ 31 ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଡେଟ୍।
ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ 15 ବୋଧେ।
ନା ନା ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ 31 ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଡେଟ୍। ହଁ
ହଁ
ଆପଣ ଜଣେ ଜଣେ ନମ୍ବର କୁହନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ ଦେଲେ ମୁଁ ଲେଖି ନଉଛି ଦେଲେ ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ଖୋଲିଦବା ଆମେ ତାହେଲେ ଜଣା ପଡିଯିବ ସବୁ କିଛି।
ହଁ ସେୟାର କଲେ ଠିକ ହୁଅନ୍ତା।
ହଁ ସୁଧୀର ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ଟା କୁହନ୍ତୁ ନା ଆଗେ।
9040
9040
575834।
575834।
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ଟିକେ ଟିକେ 9040575834।
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ଠିକ ଅଛି ତାପରେ ଆଉ କିଏ ରହିଲେ? ବିଷ୍ଣୁପ୍ରିୟା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ଟା ଟିକେ ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ।
9777
9777
68
68
77
77
28
28
38।
38 ଆଉ ଥରେ ଟିକେ ଦେଖିନିଅନ୍ତୁ 9777
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
6877
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
38।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ଟା ଟିକେ
ହଁ ମୁଁ କହିଦଉଛି। ତାପରେ ଅମ୍ୟକାନ୍ତ ସାର୍ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନମ୍ବର ଟା ଟିକେ
7077
7077
0272
0272
62।
62 7077
Okay,
0272 62।
right.
ମୁଁ ସାର୍ ଆଡ୍ କରିଦଉଛି ଗ୍ରୁପରେ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ରହୁଛି ନମସ୍କାର।